Hello. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you've all had a good week. So for today's live, I thought I would do something slightly different. I'm celebrating the paperback release of my very first ever co-authored book, She Defies. Got a copy here. So I thought exclusively for you lovely people, I would give you a reading of my chapter. So my chapter is called Be the Hero of Your Story. It's a window into my life and some of the hardest challenges I've had to overcome and face. So without further ado, I'll get started. So I have been defying the odds since I took my first breath. Why? Because I was born blue. I was too excited by life and started breathing too early, filling my lungs with fluid. Luckily, I was whisked away and incubated until I was pink, then placed in the arms of my loving parents. I am so lucky to have been given the opportunity of life, and I grabbed it with both tiny hands. Since then, I have continued to be a woman who defies throughout my life, turning my challenges into advantages. Life throws curveballs in our direction and places obstacles in our path to help us grow, learn, and become the best version of ourselves we can possibly be. We often don't see it like that at the time, though. I've had a fair few of these in my 37 years on the earth. I am a woman who defies the odds. I've always seen the world differently to most. This is my gift and my curse. I was severely bullied all the way through my education, always excluded by my peers, making me feel unworthy, rejected, alone, and crushing my self-esteem. I was a quiet kid, an easy target, plus I loved learning, which was not cool. This left me feeling like an outcast, rejected, and like I didn't belong anywhere. It's when the little voice in my head started to turn negative, and my intrusive thoughts placed their first negative seeds. This has impacted my adult life massively, making it hard for me to be visible, not speaking up with my true authentic voice, and generally shrinking into the background until now. I left people pleasing behind me. It left me people pleasing, feeling like I was worthless and living in my own constant dark cloud of doom. Let me take you back to one particular event that scarred my soul. I'd just started high school. I had a group of friends from primary school. Well, I thought they were my friends, but in hindsight, most definitely not. One lunchtime, they threw me around the playground on my rucksack and then hung me on the fence high enough so that I couldn't get down by myself. The whole school was there watching and laughing, so I put on a brave face and I laughed with them. Eventually, someone took pity on me and unhooked me. I ran to the toilets and cried. This public humiliation left me with deep emotional scarring. I wanted to turn invisible, and this feeling stayed with me until I healed my heart. I never let them see the pain and hurt that they caused. I'm so glad I managed to keep my dignity and never showed them the pain they caused me. I see now they were never really my friends. I was an object that they could use to amuse themselves until they got bored and found somebody else to play with. I'm so glad I found out how fake people can be at such an early time in my life. That is one of the greatest lessons I have learnt, and I am the opposite. I always wear my heart on my sleeve with pride. Life is too short to be wearing masks all the time, and it takes far more energy to be fake than it does to be real. So my advice to you is be your real self. It's not important what anybody else thinks of you, just what you think of yourself. Another year or so, and then a real dark night of the soul of my soul arrived. The sudden, unexpected death of my father, who was only 50 years old. We were at our grandparents' house for the weekend, which was not uncommon for us. I was making tea and coffee for us all. I walked into the lounge, and there he was, having a heart attack on the sofa. I froze and shouted for help. We called an ambulance. I was talking to the call handler whilst my mum performed CPR until the ambulance arrived. And we were then shipped off to a neighbour. I always resented this, as I wanted to know what was happening. Children are capable of handling much more than adults give them credit for. However, I am so glad that I was given the opportunity to say goodbye at the funeral home, giving me some closure. This rocked my world, questioned my faith, and sent me off the rails on a self-destructive cycle. How could a loving God do something like this? What had I done to deserve losing my dad at an age where I felt I was only just really learning who he was? Grief is a funny thing. It comes and goes in eternal waves. Grief is a cycle. You keep going around and around, but I tell you, it does not get easier with time. It just gets more familiar and becomes a part of who you are, a part of your identity. Learning how to live my life in grief has been one of my hardest life lessons, but one I feel truly lucky to have started at such a young age, giving me a true insight into the meaning of life and why we are here. I've seen grief tear people apart, and I am so grateful I was given this lesson at an age where I was able to learn and grow with it. Grief changes you, not for the better or for worse. You just become a different version of yourself. Learning that we cannot control everything in our lives is an important life lesson to learn, but one we find hard, as it's in our human nature to try to control ourselves, others, and the world around us. But that perfectionism and control can start to destroy us if we become too hyper-focused on it. I've always been a control freak, especially around food. I'm a sick person. I must have thrown up thousands of times, if not more, to the point it really doesn't bother me anymore. Honestly, we couldn't make it 3 miles from the house before I got travel sick, and we all had spare clothes in the boot. I've always had severe IBS, food intolerances, and travel sickness, being generally weak in the stomach. This made me have an unhealthy relationship with food. I wouldn't eat anything that was mixed together. I needed to know exactly what I was eating. I was a teenager who had never eaten pizza. Crazy, right? Losing my dad helped me eat better. Wait, work with me here. I realized that some things in life will happen that we have no control over. We have no choice in some of the things we experience. But what we can control is our thoughts and our feelings, how we want the world to perceive us, and how we let those experiences affect us. I chose to let go of that need to be in control, allowing me to grow a healthier relationship with food. A shining light of my car accident was that I was referred to the dietitian in the hospital as my weight dropped below 6 stone. They introduced me to the low FODMAP diet, which has changed my world dramatically for the better. If you suffer from IBS, I urge you to research this. It has been a complete game changer in my relationship with food. I am now a low FODMAP diet pro, So do reach out to me if you need any advice. I'm here to help. Also, a word of advice. I have spent my whole life trying to put weight on and failing. It hurts me deeply when people mention how slim I am and how I am so lucky to be so small. Well, no, I would rather have a bit of healthy extra weight than suffer a lifetime of gut issues. So be careful with your words. After all, they are mightier than the sword. And what you wish for may not be the shiny, happy place that you think it is. So, how did I get through all of these dark nights of the soul? Firstly, find your tribe, like-minded people who accept you for who you are, as you are, dents and all. For me, I found some of this within the metal music community. They made me feel welcome with open arms. They were always non-judgmental and so supportive. I found comfort in the lyrics of their songs, knowing there were other people out there feeling the pain that I was in. To feel and experience their pain through their music allowed me to express the pain I was in. I finally had found someone who understood me. I finally found a way to release some of my emotions. Listening to their songs made me feel so much less alone. Secondly, don't try to bury or ignore your thoughts and feelings. Burying them down does you no good at all. They always come back with vengeance 10 times fold. I tried to numb myself in my teenage years with alcohol and other things, none of which were helpful, constructive, or healthy. All to try to make me forget the pain I was in, to try to forget about the hurt and the sorrow caused by decades of bullying and the sea of grief I was drowning in after losing my dad. Safe to say, this did not help, but made things worse. It fueled the depression in my mind and fanned the anxiety in my body. I turned to self-harm, and this gave me a feeling of control back and made me feel something instead of the emptiness I had inside. I even contemplated suicide. I see these scars every day, and they remind me of how far I have come, how much I have faced, and how I have defied the cards handed to me. It reminds me that one of life's greatest gifts is the depth of our emotions. You can't have the good without the bad, the light without the dark, pleasure without pain. Life is about finding a balance between these opposing forces and building your own yin-yang. I went on to study psychology at A level and at degree level to try to understand myself better, why I felt the way I did, and how it developed my mindset. This enabled me to feel less of a freak, as I finally understood exactly why and how I felt and reacted the way I did. But I still couldn't change those negative thoughts and feelings, but at least I knew where they came from and why I had them. Leaving the country and going on a gap year before university also partly saved my life. I knew if I stayed where I was, my self-destructive mission would end badly. So at 18, I put myself outside my comfort zone and travelled alone to New Zealand, where I worked on a visa for a year. I discovered so much about myself during this time. This was really worth far more than anything else I've ever experienced. I found it easier to talk to people, and even crazier. They were nice to me. It opened my eyes again to the beauty of creation, giving me hope for life again, and showed me I was worthy, I was wanted, and I was enough as I am. I feel so blessed and grateful to have been given that opportunity. My husband and I have faced more challenges together than most people do in their lifetimes. But this has made us so much stronger together, and I know whatever happens, he always has my back. Going forward a decade or so, my husband and I had just bought our first home together. This should have been an exciting time for us. We moved in just before Christmas, and 1 week later, I had a life-changing car accident. The first week in January, I completely smashed up my T7 vertebrae. I had broken my spine. It was those same vertebrae, when broken, that paralysed Christopher Reeve, who was Superman. I spent 1 month in hospital, unable to move. I had to stay still on the bed. I couldn't even sit up to eat. Let me tell you, eating lying down is a very hard thing to do, and using a bedpan will take away any last embarrassing thoughts you ever had about yourself. Then, when I was finally released, I had to spend 6 months in a back brace, which had to be on me any time I was upright. This was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever had to wear. Even worse, if I had not contacted the hospital, I would still be in it today, as they forgot about me and lost my records. Worcester thought I was under Coventry's care, and Coventry thought I was under Worcester's care. If I hadn't had the sense to contact them and question my care, I would be a lot worse off than I am today. So have the courage to speak up and don't just take things at face value. But I have never had such a sense of peace, clarity, and a connection to the divine as I did in those moments before I blacked out. I knew the car was going out of my control, so I relaxed. I said a prayer. What will be, will be. Please watch over me, Lord. Then a feeling of calm, oneness with the world, and peace came over me for what felt like an age. Finally, I was turned upside down and ended up facing the wrong way on the other side of the road. I am so pleased I was the only one in the car, as the passenger side came off much worse than the driver's side. This accident has left me with lasting injuries, a life lived in pain. I have scoliosis, where my muscles healed at different rates, bending my spine. I have a wedge, where the vertebrae healed funny, meaning I always have to keep pulling my shoulders back, and chronic nerve pain at the brake site. Medication and physiotherapy have been a part of my life ever since. The one thing that has given me the biggest difference in my pain levels is thinking of pain as my old friend. Once I stopped fighting the pain and worked with it instead, it shouted much quieter. I now think I would feel lost without my old friend pain talking in my ear all the time. Some days it gets louder than others. Those are the days I realise I've not been working with it, but trying to rebel against it. And trust me, pain always wins. I am thankful, though, for all of my life experiences, as they made me the woman I am today, a woman who heals, a woman who defies. So, my psychology degree helped me to work out why I felt the way that I did, giving me the tools to understand my mindset. It gave me names and meanings to the emotions I was carrying around and the conditions: depression, anxiety, PTSD, GAD, OCD. Studying Reiki and becoming a Reiki master has allowed me to really drop into myself, to truly feel and experience the emotions I had bottled up and suppressed for so many years, and to see clarity in where they came from and why I was feeling them. It brings me a sense of inner peace and calm I have not found anywhere else. Heart healing has allowed me to release those emotions. It allowed me to express all of the pain, anger, and sadness I'd been holding on to surrounding my dad's death in a safe environment, one where I did not feel any shame or guilt for feeling that anger. I have really healed so much in the past year. I never realized I could feel so free. It allowed me to connect all of the dots in my story so that I could truly start to heal. If my story brings light and hope to just one of you beautiful souls reading this or listening to this or watching this, then my job here is done. Now, I hold my head high with confidence to share my story with you right now. Finally, I am stepping into the amazing, awesome woman I was destined to be. This would never have been possible if I hadn't worked on my mindset with my psychology degree, discovered the healing power of Reiki to raise my frequency, and healed the wounds of my heart with heart healing to release all the pent-up emotion I'd been holding on to that had slowly been eating my soul. I found Reiki and heart healing so transformative myself that I am now fully trained in both modalities, meaning I can share their healing power with you through my business, Healing with Hannah. You too can finally be free to shine your light brightly, find your own balance in life between the light and the dark, defying your odds and empowering yourself to take control of your life again, living life to the fullest. Let me help you put yourself back together with gold so you can not just survive but thrive. You are not broken, just built differently now. This difference gives you a beauty you didn't have before and gives you wisdom and strength. I would love to connect with you all, so reach out and say hi. In Healing with Hannah, I use my decades of professional and personal wisdom learned from my journey of a bullied outcast child, a teenager lost in his self-destructive addictions, and an adult lost in a cloud of doom, to a woman who has turned a life-changing car accident into a positive path change in life. A woman who has the strength and resilience to live with chronic life-changing conditions. A woman who defies. A woman who wins. There we go. I'd love to know your thoughts. And you can get your own copy either directly from me for exactly the same price on Amazon, but I will sign it for you, post it directly to your door, and donate a portion of the profits raised to St. Richard's Hospice for the amazing work that they do supporting patients and their families. Or you can buy it directly from Amazon on the links below. Thank you for listening.